agenda for the consultation today. I know we created this a little bit ago, so I just kind of wanted to go over, you know, what we talked about reviewing and see if you wanted to change anything or if you had any initial questions. So you kind of talked about, you know, individual donating being the biggest, you know, effort for you. So I put down to take a look at fundraising. We can look at the different allocations that Neon uses to categorize donations. So that includes campaigns, just mentioned individual donors, tracking them. We talked about a direct mail campaign in November and the end of the year. And then I think it would be helpful to go through the process of setting up your standard donation form.
Okay.
So that's going to be the form that you'll use on your website where somebody will go to make a gift and it's connected to your payment processor. So if you use that, that way your donations will be seamlessly coming into your Neon system. And then also we can take a look at tracking prospective grants. And then also events, we can walk through setting one up as an example if that's helpful. And just kind of make sure that you're comfortable with the settings and the configuration to be able to you know, turn on registration. And then look at
No, that sounds great. That sounds great. I will say, as I was putting in the donations, I was a little confused, and I'm sure that you'll probably touch on this, but I just want to make sure. I was a little confused in terms of configuring, like who does the solicitation, like setting up those profiles, or setting up like company profiles and stuff like that.
Sounds good. So let's go right into fundraising then to go off of what you were talking about. So just kind of go over in system settings, home dashboard. I'm going to use this new interface button here. Do you understand like the different ways that you can categorize donations, or would it be helpful to kind of go over those one by one?
Yeah, let's go over those one by one.
Sure, sure. So I would say the number one way to categorize donations in Neon is going to be through a campaign. So I see you have a couple in here already. I can't recall what you did. Did you self-import files, or did you enter them individually?
I entered them individually.
Got it. So campaigns are going to be, like I said, the number one way that you can categorize donations. It's basically, you know, what buckets of money do you want to track, and what people might be giving to on a front-end basis. So the last part of what I said means, so for each one of these campaigns, so for corporate grants and then your holiday appeal and individual fundraising, you can have a separate donation form for each of them, and then you can link them separately or however you like on your website. So people, when they're giving online, they're giving to a particular campaign, and you generally have a defaulted one, and a defaulted campaign means it's going to be what you'll use your standard donation form for, and then it's also what will pop up whenever you're entering a gift on the back end. So my question for you would be, do you have a default campaign that you would like your online donations to go into, or just, you know, if somebody were to give and it's unrestricted, where would you want that, what would you want that campaign to be?
I would say that would probably be like the individual fundraising.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at this. So I want to view this here. Hit edit. And so I would say, let's go ahead and make this default here.
Okay.
So that means the donations coming through on your standard donation form will go into individual giving, as well as when you enter it on the front end, or excuse me, back end. And let's see, any other fields I want to tell you about? So parent campaign, you can have a parent campaign just as a form of hierarchy. If you want to say, if you had, you know, a dozen campaigns a year and you wanted them to all be under 2016, annual fund. It's just a way of organizing your campaigns if you want another tier. And then this next field, primary solicitation, you can populate this, say, and I think it was maybe on one of your other campaigns, if you're doing, a direct mailer, you could populate this, and it's just going to be helpful to track, how you actually receive the donation for most of the donations for the campaign. And then fund and purpose, these are the other, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. I'm hearing things. Fund and purpose, that's the second and third way that you categorize donations. So just to kind of touch on them here, a fund, we generally recommend that you have a fund mimic your accounting codes or your essentially different forms of income. So a fund might be, unrestricted, restricted, capital. So that's what fund tends to be used for. And then finally, purpose is if you have a donation that is in support of a particular program or a project. Purpose is kind of intended to track, exactly what a gift is in support of. Does that make sense, everything I've said so far?
Yes, no, that makes perfect sense. How do we put together, and please stop me if you're going to go over this and I'm just being
sure.
But how do we put together, configure the different categories for the purpose and for the fund?
Sure. So we can do that in the system settings home dashboard, and we'll do that after we get out of campaign. I can show you where you set those up.
Okay, cool.
But the reason that they're here is if you wanted to go ahead and default, does your individual fundraising already, do you want that to be, defaulting a purpose and a fund as well, if you already know what you want those categories to be for this campaign. So that's why they're here. And then a couple other fields just to mention, your donation levels, if you ever wanted to create suggested giving levels, and those can appear on your front-end form, you could select one for this campaign here. And then finally, if you want to make a campaign inactive, you could do so here. And then start and end date, that's just kind of internal for your purposes. Goal, you can populate that field if you want to generate a thermometer for this campaign. And then the last thing down at the bottom, it's saying, do you want to restrict the donation options that are available on your front-end donation form? So when people are making a gift online, do you want to allow both one-time and recurring donations or something different?
So if we get because we get a huge section of our donations come through direct mail. So as far as this donation form on the front end,
sure.
That's more if we decide to do a form that's actually in conjunction with Neon, correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So do you plan on using that donation form, do you think, or do you know what you want to do?
Not at this time, honestly.
Okay.
I think
sure.
right now we do a lot of direct mail, so I don't know if we'll plan on doing the donation form. And then, of course, right now we use the online giving platform that we do use is events.org, and I don't think you guys integrate with them. So it will be a different system. So, I mean, eventually I would, sorry, now I'm reading the options. Yeah, I would definitely, allow both one-time and recurring donations on the same form.
Sure. Yeah. So, yeah, if you don't plan on using that form right away, it's totally up to you whenever you are ready. So let me submit this campaign, and then I'll show you. So now we have this all good to go. So basically, if we go to Forms and Pages, Home Dashboard, whenever you are ready to use that form, you want to come here, and you can just grab this link and give it to whoever manages your website to put it online whenever you're ready. So that's what you have to do. And then you also want to make sure.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Is there some sort of HTML code that we will have to integrate into the website for the form to
No,
actually.
it's literally just like, I mean, it's just a web address. So you would copy it, and then, whoever manages your website, you would say, oh, I want my donate now button to go to this link, to this form.
I see
So
what
it's
you're
not,
saying. Okay.
yeah. So that's just so you know the process whenever it is that you're ready to use this form. And then finally, if I go to System Settings, Home Dashboard, you want to collect or connect to your payment processor. So underneath Payments and Transactions here, Payment Gateways, this is where it looks like you maybe started to set something up, but this is where you would go to connect the payment processor before you use those forms.
Okay. Because what I was trying to do was log in all of the contributions that we've gotten online, but it was through events.org, and I tried to put in that credit card information and all that stuff, and it kept telling me that it was declined. So I think, is that what that's about?
Yeah, you need to, you want this to be verified, so it'll give you like a green arrow whenever it's verified. So go back into here and then go through the process of, putting in, which gateway did you say it was with?
It was with events.org. I was just copying the.
Oh, okay, yeah, so let's see. So that's not a payment processor that we integrate with, so you'll go to whichever one you choose. You'll go to, like, if it's a credit card, go to New, and basically this is a list of ones that you choose from.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make some sense about how they work together?
Yeah. So then we would
Okay.
have to then use have people who pay online would have to go through PayPal to process it.
Well, it's
Or set that up.
they don't have to go through PayPal, but that's who would actually be processing the transaction. So
Right.
the
Okay.
the way that it works is they're on that online donation form, and I can show you what it looks like. So if we go to form dashboard and then standard donation form, so you configure this to make it look however you want. You change these particular fields, so they would fill this out. Whatever you want, whatever field you want to collect from them, they would go to submit, and then they would fill out the credit card page, and so they don't have to leave anywhere. Like, it looks like they're still on your website because it has your logo up here. And then what you can also do, if I go back to this, the forms pages, you can see this navigation flow here. Right now it's defaulted as 2-page, but what you could do is you could change it to make it be a 1-page process. So they could actually, there's a 1-page where they put in all their information and their credit card, if that's,
Okay.
if you like that better. So you have some options here,
And so if
but
we
they don't
wanted to,
really have.
oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, sorry, I was just saying, or reiterating, but they don't actually have to like go anywhere else to process it. It looks and feels like they're on your same website.
Okay. Okay, I see. So if we decide to then maybe get rid of what we're already working with and we decide to use this donation form, would that
Mm-hmm.
be an extra cost to our membership, or is that included?
Nope, it just is whatever the payment processors, they have their own series of like transaction fees. I know with PayPal Pro, we have a partnership that waives the monthly fee. Usually PayPal Pro would be $30 a month on top of transaction fees. Um, but with the promotion that we have, they'll waive that fee, and you just have to pay for the transaction fees. And then the other one is WorldPay that offers no flat fee. So it kind of depends, but there's not any additional fees in terms of from Neon's perspective, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yep. So going back to system settings, home dashboard, do you want to, can I show you how to go about setting up your funds and purposes? You want to do that
Yes.
now? Okay.
Sure.
So would you want to do funds? Is that what you were thinking of?
Yes.
Okay. So what would be a fund you want to add?
So you said that funds were unrestricted, restricted. Let's do kind of like the categories I would want.
Yeah, we could just set up one.
Yeah, so
Okay,
let's unrestricted.
sure. So you could say unrestricted here. Oops, if I can spell today, unrestricted. And then code, that's just for shorthand. Start date, that's just internal. Mark as default. Would you say that most of your gifts coming in, you would want to go to this unrestricted fund? Was that the case?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can say yes. And then for status, we can just have this as active. So this is literally the only thing you need to configure to create a fund. So let's go to submit. And then if we go back to our home dashboard, go into your campaign of individual fundraising, and then I'm going to go to edit. And then you can, if you want, you can select and make unrestricted be tied to this individual fundraising. But
Okay.
again, on the back end, if your primary form of fundraising is that direct mail, you're going to be entering them, so you always have the ability to override that.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm going to submit this, and you mentioned for fundraising about the solicitors, is that correct? Kind of understanding
Yeah.
how that works? Okay, so let's go to home dashboard, and then underneath payments and gateways, solicitors. So this is where you add a system user or an individual if you would say that they're responsible for soliciting that gift from someone. Is that what you're thinking of? You want to just kind of,
Yeah.
okay. So who's an example of someone you want to set up as a solicitor?
Angela Herlock, she's our executive director.
Okay, and then does she have an account in Neon? Does she go into Neon at all as a user?
Not currently, no.
Okay, so let's just add her as an individual unless she's already in here. Do you know if she has her own account?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well, we can just search for her here. So you said Angela, just double check. Oh, is that
Oh
her
yeah.
here?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll click on her. And then, yep, it's got her there. So it's that easy to add a solicitor. So now, can you think off the top of your head someone whose gift you wanted to be associated with her being the solicitor?
Sure. Let's
Okay.
say Amalia, a lady named Amalia. So Amalia.
Mhm. All right, here we go. So let me jump down to, before I do that, are you familiar with how you can personalize your account view and change some of these sections?
Oh no, I'm not familiar.
So basically, if you don't like how there's so many sections on an account, if it's kind of cumbersome to scroll through when you're looking at things, you can just configure your own view. So this is going to be for you personally as a user. So right now, if you see in the left-hand corner, I'm logged in as an administrator. So
Right.
you can have this, personalized for you, and then any other users can have it personalized for them. So you go to Page Settings, Show Hide Sections, and any of those sections, if they're not relevant to you, if you don't plan on using them, you can just take them off.
Oh, okay.
So again, this is for me, so you don't have to worry about this coming out of your view. So you can just say, okay, if you want donations to be at the top, you can just move things
Oh,
around.
nice.
Yeah. Okay, so if I submit that, then there's much less things you have to look at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so to go back to that donation, so if I select, would it be for this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I select this, and then I go to edit, it's just pulling up that, original donation screen. So now, underneath solicitor here, you can go and select Angela. So that's how you would track it. And then if you wanted to, mark the fund, if there's a fund associated with that, your gala, you could do that, as well as if the gala was, in support of a particular program, you could select that as well. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
You said
Submit
purpose
here.
referred to like a specific program, right?
Yeah, generally purpose is meant to indicate like, if something is in support of a particular program or a project. But, you could always repurpose it to be reflective of anything else if you want. Okay, so let me just look back at our agenda here.
Okay.
So,
Quick, I'm sorry. So I
no, go ahead.
see that, like, for example, on Amalia's page, where you
Mhm.
can put in a uh, like attach it. Is it okay? So my question is it possible to
Mhm.
attach a picture or a document, maybe say a copy of a check or something like that?
Let's see. So you can do that. Let's go back to her record. Amelia. No, that's Amelia.
AMA.
Ama.
LIA. Mhm.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So I don't think you can for a donation, but you can if we jump to notes, you could do new note document, and then you can attach a file here if you wanted to say, and then you could have a note type maybe that's like, donation receipts or something. So you could have a specific category, and then you could just, put in the date of the donation and then attach a file here. Let me double check and make sure. I don't think you can do it for a donation, but let's look here.
Okay. Because I see, like on the notes, I tried to attach like a check, it's like a copy of a check for a donation, but it wouldn't let me attach. The attachment button didn't become active. So I'm wondering if that's,
Let
you
me,
know,
you know what, let me double check, and that may be a module you don't have. Let me check.
okay.
Let's see here. Okay, yeah, so you just have the modules fundraising and events, so that the notes aren't going to be available unless you have the document storage center. So unfortunately, you won't have the ability to upload things.
Okay.
Let's see, going back, anything else on fundraising you wanted to go over, or like an account in general, since we're on an account?
Let's see, I'm trying to think. And you said I wouldn't be able to record the, like if someone paid online, I wanted to record, designate that donation, as that type of transaction. But even if
Mhm.
I was just reporting it and not necessarily accepting a transaction through the software system, will it not
Right,
let
right.
me? Will it not let me indicate that?
Sure, you could enter in a payment and just, indicate that wasn't processed that it was processed online but not through Neon. Yeah, that would just be like adding a donation.
Okay, could we walk through that? Because I think I was kind of
Sure.
confused.
So you could either put in the person's name and then go directly from her account, just like we did to edit her gift, or under fundraising, you go to add donation. You have to type in a donor here. Um, Is there anyone we could use as an example? Maybe just put it on Angela's account and then delete it.
Yeah, sure.
And then wait, was her last name Herlock?
Yeah.
Okay, yep. So the first thing you're going to do is you have to designate the donor. And then you have to type in an amount. So let's just pretend like it's $100. Put in the date. Mhm.
Okay.
Anything else that you wanted to populate, you could put here. So since we indicated that individual fundraising campaign was defaulted, it's already populating for your convenience, and then the unrestricted fund as well. If you wanted to make a donation anonymous, you could do so here. And then those source fields you can configure. Oh, looks like you already have these sources here. Or, if you wanted to indicate a solicitor. And then solicitation method. So here's where on an individual gift basis you can say, oh, this is a direct mail, check that's coming in or whatever it might be. And then acknowledgee, this is for if you have gifts that are in honor or in memory of someone. You can put in, whoever it might be, and it's going to say, oh, you want to create a new honor memory. And then you can just kind of configure that. So that way, say if someone passed away and they had like 15 gifts associated with them, you could go directly onto their record and see the total giving. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anything on this page so far? Any questions?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay, so then we go to continue. Okay, so here is where the tender type, where you select on-site. So these tender types, you have the ability to configure what they say and how they read. So the credit card online, if I select that, this is showing up in red. That's because the credit card online is intended to be used when you're actually processing a credit card. So what you would be doing is, I don't know, if somebody gave you their credit card number and you literally wanted to send this to your payment processor to, charge a card. That's what this tender type is intended to be. The on-site credit card machine, this is what you would use to record a transaction that's been processed elsewhere. So what you just said.
Okay.
So it doesn't have the required card number like the other one did.
Right.
Does that make sense? And then, so you could just enter that information at the bottom. If you wanted to send an email or a letter acknowledgement, you could do that. And then finally, you would just go to submit payment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that helps a whole lot because I was.
Oh, good.
Yeah. That was really
perfect. And then, so let's go back to, I'm just going to kind of exit out of here since we're not really saving that donation. If we go to underneath payments and transactions, tender types, so this is where if you want to change the names of any of these, so that credit card, on-site credit card machine, that's the one where I said, you would use this, that's indicating that, it's processed elsewhere. If you want to change this, to like make it different, you can do that here.
Okay.
All right. Let me go back to our agenda. Oh, so I know you mentioned you probably wouldn't use that donation form right away. Would it be helpful to go through the process of setting that up as an example, or do you feel comfortable kind of coming back and reviewing some guides or doing that when you're ready to set it up?
I think let's go ahead and do an example.
Sure, okay. So if we go to back to our home dashboard, underneath standard forms, configure fields and sections, this is where you're going to come to configure any of your front-end forms. So the first thing that you do is you select what is the page type. So you either have public access pages, and that means this is a page that anyone can get to, presuming that you've configured it on your website. So unless you have any of those forms linked on your website, nobody's going to be able to get to them. But public access page means it's not going to be restricted for anyone to go onto that page, as opposed to the opposite of that is constituent page. And that means somebody would have to be logged in to the constituent login portal in order to access this page. Let me look at my notes. I don't have anything on the constituent login portal. Is that something you don't plan on using right now?
Oh, yeah, I don't plan on using that.
Okay. So in that case, you only have to worry about these public access pages. So one kind of word of caution, if you're not going to be using the constituent login portal, excuse me one moment. I apologize, I have a really sore throat today. I'm a little concerned I might be losing my voice. So I'm sorry if I have to pause, but okay. So if you won't be using the constituent login portal, that's totally fine. We have some other clients and nonprofits that choose not to use it. The only thing you want to be careful of is any accumulating duplicate accounts in your system. So basically, anytime somebody goes onto the standard donation form, they're not logged in, Neon is assuming you don't know who they are. So it creates an account for them. So you just want to make sure that you're going to the duplicate manager, which is going to be under reports, duplicate manager. And you want to make sure that you're coming here and managing any duplicate accounts.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, but to get back to kind of the original point, so the only thing you have to worry about right now is your public access pages. And then if I click the drop down underneath page name, these are the different pages that you have available to use. So I mentioned the individual donation form. That's the standard one that I would suggest we use as an example. So if I go back to this is the individual donation form. So there's the concept of an organization here. So there's this button, donate as an organization. So you can have this on. It's defaulted to be on. And what it's going to do is on the individual page, if somebody, puts in their name, puts in their donation amount, completes the transaction, then an account is going to be created for them as an individual account, as opposed to if someone goes to donate as an organization, you might want to collect some different fields, such as company. And when they complete that transaction, an organization account is going to be created. Like I mentioned, we're going to go ahead and edit the standard form, and that means it's just going to be the campaign that's defaulted, so that the individual giving. If you wanted to customize a campaign to have that be online, you could select this radio option, and then you could choose from your different campaigns to customize. So going to next. So here are all of the fields that are available to include on this page. On the left, these are all of the available ones. On the right, these are the ones that are defaulted. So donation amount is going to be required from Neon's perspective, as well as first name and last name. So I know we talked about earlier on that campaign the question of, for this page, would you want to allow both recurring and one-time donations?
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to keep that on, you could just keep this field here. And then do you collect things like prefix, suffix, and title? Would you want people to fill out those fields on this form?
I would say just prefix and title.
Okay, so you're rid of suffix. And then what about department or company name? Are those relevant?
Company name is.
Sure. And then I would presume you would want to keep the address lines?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And then one question for you. Do you get any types of international donations?
No.
Okay, so in that case, we can take off the state free text here. And then email one, phone one, I would think would be relevant. Down at the very bottom, you have this login name and password. And this is what you would use if you're going to use the constituent login portal, if you wanted to encourage people to create a username right then. Since you won't be using it, you can just go ahead and take it off of your form.
Okay. And is
So
there, so my question is there like a specific purpose for that, to use the constituent login page?
Sure. Yeah. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to recognize someone. So whenever they complete a transaction, it's going to go directly onto their account as opposed to creating those duplicate accounts. It's also going to create shorter forms for people. And if they were to log in to that portal, they can do things like view their donation history. They can print out receipts or letters if they ever, needed something like that. They
Okay.
could, register for events. So sometimes we hear from some other clients that it kind of makes their donors kind of feel like they have an in with your organization. They can log
Right.
into their portal and view their history. But it's really kind of up to you and like your donor base and what you think they would be interested in and what they wouldn't. There's really no downside of not using it other than, like I mentioned, the duplicate accounts.
Oh, okay. Actually, now that you mention it, that sounds like a really
Hmm.
great. So
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
I'll probably revisit that.
sure. So what I'll do on my notes for my follow-up email that I'll send you,
Okay.
I'll send you a guide on the constituent login portal, and it has some more information. You can think about it, talk about it with your team if you want, and just kind of decide if it's something you want to do. So let
Okay.
me jot that down. And then, like I mentioned here, if you do decide to use it, I would recommend encouraging people to log in while they're filling out a transaction. It's just an opportunity to allow them to use it. You know what I mean?
Right. And then I imagine we can probably send like correspondences directly to those who are logged in.
Yeah, I mean,
Not logged in.
yeah, you can send correspondence to anyone who's logged in. One thing that you can do, and there was another guide on this, you can send out a mass email to everyone who's in your system who has an email address, and you can say, something like, hey, we have this new, this new system that we're using. You have the ability to log into an account and view your history, and you can encourage people to click a link that's going to be personalized for them. It's actually the reset password, and what it does is it takes them to a place where they can create a username and set their password, essentially creating an account. So it's kind of it's a way to encourage people to use the login portal. So I'll send you a guide on how you would go about doing that if you think that might be something your organization would want to do as well.
Okay, cool.
Cool. All right. So do you want me to go ahead and leave those off for now and let you come back and decide?
Yeah,
Or
that'd be
should
great.
we? Okay, perfect. And then donor note, this here is just intended to be if you want to give your donors the ability to leave a comment on their donation.
Okay, cool.
So I'd say if you want to use that, probably keep it by the donation amount. And it's nice because the donor note can be a token. So in Neon, tokens are like variable mail merge fields that you can use in letters and emails.
Oh, okay, cool.
So let me see if there's anything else I want to point out. So these sections, these can just be used to break up a form, or you can use these to include any instructions. Oh, one question for you. There's some fields that you can bring on this form for honor memory gifts. Do you get those a lot? Do you think that would be relevant to have on your form or no?
I think it'll be relevant.
Okay, so I'd say let's go ahead and put them on there. So if I just type in at the top, you can also look for fields as well. So if I type in honor, I can do honor memory type. So whether it's in honor or in memory of, and then name. So that's going to be the person, right? And then if I start to type in acknowledgee, if I spell it right, so these fields are whoever your organization would be sending a card to. So you would want to keep those, I presume.
Yeah.
Okay, so just some basic ones I would recommend. The name of the person who would get the card, address lines, city, state, zip, and then there's also phone and email. If you want to bring those on there, it's kind of up to you if you think that's too much information to ask of someone or not. You think leave them off or bring them on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
I think leave them off.
Okay, perfect. So we'll just leave them off for now, and then I think that's pretty much it. In terms of, oh, a catch fob. This is a security measure you can use on your form where you check that you're not a robot. Would you want to include that on there?
Well, that will depend. How will it show up? Will it be where you type in the numbers, or will it just be that checkbox?
I can show you here. Let's bring it down towards the bottom. So if we go to preview page, it's down at the bottom,
Yeah.
and you check you're not a robot. So it's an easy one. It's not one of those annoying ones where you have to like listen to like the audible letters or anything crazy like that.
Right. Yeah. No, that'd be great. Yeah, I can just that.
Leave it on there?
Yeah, leave it on there.
Okay, perfect. I think that's about it in terms of fields that are relevant to point out. Do you have any questions on this so far?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. So I'll go to next. And then you can change the title of this page. So right now it's defaulted to donation. So if we go and look at it, well actually if we look at the finalized one, it's just defaulted as donation. If you want to make it more about your branding, you could certainly do that as well.
Okay.
And then you can also make fields required or not, depending on, do you want to simplify the form as much as possible and not make fields required, or is it really important that you collect all this information from someone when they're making a donation? It's up to you. Do you want to edit any of the required fields now, or do you just want to leave them as is and come back?
I say the only one maybe we can edit is I guess we could say maybe email and phone in case people don't want to.
Yeah, in case they don't want to provide that, sure. So you could take those off there. And then another relevant thing to point out. So if you remember, I said the sections can break up a page, and you can also use these to create some instructions. So if I go to edit underneath or right next to the section header here, if I go to edit, I can type in. If you want to provide some instructions about the Honor Memorial section, you could do so here. And you could just type in, like if you would like us to send a person a card, whatever it might be. And this is actually called our WYSIWYG editor. You'll see this a lot in Neon as you start using the system. So you can change like the styling, the fonts. You can use source code if anyone on your staff has HTML experience. You can insert pictures. So it's kind of the basis of what this editor does. Does that make some sense?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just close this for now. And then the last thing that you probably kind of figured just by looking at this form is you can change the display names of any of these fields if you just want them to be different.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the last step to customizing a form. Any questions on this?
No, that's it.
Okay. So if we go to submit, that's it. You're good to go. So that's the process of customizing any of your forms in Neon. We have a good guide and a good video on this too. So if you need to reference that in the future, you can certainly look at those as a resource. And we're also recording this session today, so I'll send that to you if you ever want to, if you can't remember something we went over, you'll have that. So let me pause here and look at our agenda. Anything else for fundraising we haven't gone over that you want to understand how to do in Neon?
I would say reports. What about generating reports?
Sure.
Or if that's a different section.
Yeah, no, we can take a look at those now. So that's going to be under reports. Yeah. You can go to home dashboard. This is going to be where you're going to have any of your saved reports. So there's basically two different types of reports. You have a one-click report and a new report. So the one-click report, that just means it's a pre-canned report. You don't have to configure any of the sections. So some helpful ones regarding fundraising, if we go to donor, Neon can automatically generate a LIBON report. So, all the people that donated to you in 2015 but haven't yet donated, obviously this would be really good to kind of use if you're trying to make sure that people don't become lapsed donors.
Right.
So if I just click on this this is going to take us directly to the results page. So you only have 16. So it just kind of has some default output columns here. So since this is a one-click report, you won't have the ability to configure the report, but you can change these output columns if you wanted them to be different. So for example, you see there's full name here. If I go to configure report, and I can edit the columns, the output columns. So I can click this. And just a personal preference of mine when I'm doing reports or any mailing list, I like to use first name and last name separately. Neon kind of defaults it to full name. So I like to just change this here if you want to, organize it by last name or something. So you could just go about, what are the output columns that you want to be? Do you want to add any? Do you want to take any off? So that's how you go about personalizing that canned report. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then going back to our one-click reports. So that was the LiveBunt report. If you notice, that's under donor. So a donor report is going to be different from a donation report. So a donor report is only going to pull people, donors. And a donation report is going to pull transactions. So for example, if you're looking for all of the gifts to your organization in 2015, if you want to see each one of those transactions rather than just one donor, you'd want to do a donation report. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so is there an example of a report that you would say, is important for you to be able to run that we could do as an example for a new report, and we can kind of walk through that?
Yeah, I would say maybe like the individual fundraising report, or maybe even a report from the gala.
Okay, so that would be an event here. So for a report having to do with any event in Neon, it's going to depend on how you have those records in your system. So I saw you did have some event registrations. Is that correct? Did you manually enter those?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
perfect.
Did like 2.
Awesome. So you could do event attendee report, and that's going to pull a list of all the people that attended or said they were going to attend an event. So we could just click on this. And then it's asking, well, do you want to do multiple events or just one?
Oh, we can do just
Maybe
one.
just one? Okay. And then so you just pick which one you want. So here's your gala from, oh no, that's this year. That's in March. Okay. So you pick that one, go to configure report. And since this isn't a one-click report, you do have the ability to edit the criteria. So let's click on this just so you can see. So right now it's defaulting as the event equaling, the event, your gala from this year, and it's making sure that the registration isn't equal to canceled. So basically, this is going to pull all the attendees. Is there any reason, would you want to further, segment that group of people, or does this probably seem good in terms of attendees?
I think that's good in terms of attendees.
Yeah. So if you wanted to change it, obviously you could just kind of look through these fields and see if there's anything in particular that would make sense. So I'll X out of this third one here. If you wanted to add a search group, so that's kind of like having an OR operator. So you could say, all people that registered for that event, or, whatever else it would make sense for you to do. And then you can also add criteria. That's what we just looked at. So if you want it to be an AND operator. So if you're happy with the criteria, you can just do load. And then if you needed to edit any of the output columns, you could do so. Otherwise, you can just go to run report. It's just going to take you directly to a list. So just a couple people in there so far. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. So, once you start using Neon, for it to host your RSVP events, then obviously you'll probably have more people in here for the next event you have. Any other reports you want to take a look at that would be helpful? Do you feel kind of comfortable with how you would go in here and kind of look for a report you would want?
Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. What about can I look at the stats report?
Sure. So stats report. So this is basically, this is a helpful report. So you can do for event, registration, LIBUNT, and you can also, oh no, I'm sorry, stats reports are down here. Disregard that. um, so this is really nice. You can search summaries. So a good example of maybe a stats report you would want to do is, I want to see, say, your executive director says to you, I want to look at a list of all of our donors who gave a combined amount of $1,000 last year. Maybe the people you really want to work with or kind of reach out to. So what you could do is you could show accounts with a total amount. So if you wanted to see everybody who gave $1,000 or more last year, you could say donations, and then you can search summary amounts here. So that's kind of an example of what a stats report would be meant to do, as well as you can search in between dates for totals. Or, oh, here's another good one down at the bottom, show accounts with a total count. So maybe you want to see all the donors in your system who have given more than once. So you could say show accounts with a total count of greater or equal to 2. So people who have made at least 2 or more gifts.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? And you can do the same thing with event registration. So if you're looking for maybe somebody who's attended more than one event.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yep. Any other reports you want to walk through?
So I think that, oh wait, I'm sorry. No, so I think that's great. What about, okay, you mentioned earlier the duplicate manager.
Yeah, you want to take a look at that?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's underneath reports, duplicate manager. It's kind of a weird spot for it, but that's where it lives. So this is where you want to come to look for duplicate accounts in your system. We can do an email match. This is probably going to be the most accurate way of looking for duplicates, but only if you have emails in all of your accounts. So we can select this, run the scan, and you have no matches. That's great. So if we go to back, let's look at some other ones here. So we can do name and email. That probably won't give us any results because the email didn't match. Okay, so let's look at address match. Maybe you have some there. Okay, so you have 12 total. So like Kate Graham or Deanna. So this is saying, you have 2 accounts in your system with the same address. So what you want to do is maybe you want to compare the accounts to see if they are in fact duplicates. So you could just click compare. And this is just going to show you some fields that would help you decide, are they in fact duplicate accounts? Do you want to merge them together? So it has, name, salutation, emails, donations. So are you able to tell, is this in fact a duplicate account that you would want to merge together?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so what you want to do is, you see how there's this radio button, this is the main account or this is the main account? So it's basically have you pick through these columns. Would it be the first one or the second one? So I would say you want to pick the one, it's going to combine donations for you, so you don't have to worry about that. So whichever one has the most information, would you say it's probably the one on the left?
Yeah, the left, for sure.
Okay, so you can just click this radio button, go to next, and then this is asking what action do you want Neon to take. We're going to merge them together because they are duplicates. If they weren't duplicates, you could say keep both, do not merge, or excuse me, oh, I guess that's kind of the same thing, do not merge, or keep this account, the one on the right here.
Okay.
And then you could link them together if they happen to just kind of be similar, or you could add them as a household contact. So basically, we're just merging the 2 accounts together since they're the same, so we can just keep that first option checked. And then go to next. And so this is asking, if there were to be a different address, which one would you want to keep? Looks like they're the same to me, so you really don't need to make a selection here. However, if you wanted to use this address, you would say replace the address, and that's saying use this address to replace the one over here.
Okay.
So we can go to next. And then here is where you can just pick through the radio buttons if there's any information that you don't have. We picked the one that had more information, so we kind of made it easy on ourselves. So all we have to do is click next. And then finally, this is just a summary asking if you want to merge the accounts. You can just say merge and return to scan results. And then that's taking us back to that results page here. So you just want to come through here and kind of, look at them from time to time. Make sure you're going through the process of merging these accounts together. One thing you can do as well, if I go to your home page by just clicking your logo here, you can schedule the duplicate scanner to run automatically. Say if you wanted to have this do it, like once a week or once a month, you could say every week on Monday or Friday, I want to run the, address match, just to make sure that, it's going to scan them automatically. And then down in the bottom right here on the right, it'll say, like 22 possible matches. And then it just kind of gives you a reminder so you can go in there and make sure you're merging them. Do you want to set one up now? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, let's set one up now.
Okay. How often? Once a week? Once a month? What do you think?
We can say once a week, and then and Friday is fine.
Friday's good? Okay, perfect. Do you want to do the address match? It seemed like that's where you were getting most of the matches from.
Right, yeah, let's do that.
Okay, perfect. So then I'll just save the settings. And then when you come back, oh yeah, it's going to look exactly like this. It says there's 11 found, so you can go to merge duplicates, and it's going to take you directly to that results page there.
Oh.
Any questions on that process? Does that kind of seem straightforward to you?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no questions.
Perfect. Let me look at our agenda here and see what else we have. Okay. So we went through fundraising, looked at campaigns. Do you want to talk about your events now?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to events and then event list. So you have your gala that you just entered in here. Do you want to take a look at this one, or is there another one that you might want to set up as an example?
Yeah, let's set up one that's actually coming up. If that's possible, right?
Yeah. So let's do new event. And then what is the name of it?
It's called Hoops in the Hood.
Hoops? Did I spell that right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then summary, that's just internal, if you wanted to, put a summary in there. Campaign, okay, this is important. So for this event, are people paying to attend it?
No.
Okay. So are you collecting RSVPs?
Yes.
Okay. So in that case, you don't need to associate a campaign for it. But maybe a better example was your gala. Are people paying to attend your gala?
Right, yes.
Yeah, so in that case, what you would want to do, I'd recommend that you have, oh, you already have it. You have a campaign for your gala. So when you set up an event, if it's associated with dollars, with RSVP dollars, just make sure you connect it to a campaign. That way you can kind of track, the money that you're raising, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
And then maximum number of attendees, if you wanted to put a limit how many people could come, say, for your gala, if you had like a, maximum number of people at the venue and you had to just be careful about that, you could put in a maximum number and you could enable a wait list. So if somebody, passed the limit, went to RSVP, Neon would take their information, tell them that there's a waiting list, and then you could kind of manage that. So that's what those fields are intended to do.
Okay.
And then topic and category, these are just ways of categorizing your events. So if you only have a few events, you probably don't really need to populate these. But if you had more, you could explore, having categories and topics for your events. Web template, this is just default, so you don't really need to mess with that. And then web publish. If you check this box, this WYSIWYG editor here, this box, can be used to essentially create a web page that talks about your event. If you wanted to do that, if you already have like somewhere on your website that discusses this, you probably don't need it, but it's just, if it would be helpful for you. And then web register, this is simply turning on registration. But kind of what I mentioned before, as long as you're not linking any of these forms or pages on your website, no one's going to be able to stumble upon this event quite ready to go live with it.
Okay.
Archive, this is just when an event is over, if you wanted to archive it. And then finally, do you anticipate like people that are RSVPing, are they going to say that they're bringing other people?
I
Like as
don't.
in,
Oh no, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say as in attendees. Like, for the gala, it might be common, if somebody's registering, say I'm registering and I want to say I want to bring like my spouse, that would be an attendee.
Okay, yeah, I would say they would bring someone.
Okay, so the question would be, for whoever they're saying that they're bringing as an attendee, do you want Neon to create a separate account for that person? Or is that not necessary?
Well, I would like to see how that can be done.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say
Okay,
yes.
sure. So we can just turn that on. And then kind of scrolling down, do you have a date for your event yet?
August
What is it?
18th. August
August
18th.
18th. Okay, perfect. So that's a requirement. And then you can put in the event location if you want to come back and populate this. That'll just display on your page. And then you said it's a free event, correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. And then you can also you can allow people to make a donation on this form if you want to kind of like say offer them the option. Do you think that's something you would want to keep or no?
So I would want to keep it.
Okay. So we could go ahead and put free input donation. And here's the field name. So it says, please select an amount if you would like to make an additional donation. So if you want to change this wording, just come back here and you can edit this if you don't like what it says here. And then I'd probably recommend just having the checkbox automatically make the registrant one of the attendees, because someone can easily uncheck it if that's not the case. And then finally, for when you said to go ahead and let Neon create those attendees, when someone's registering, if they're bringing other people, do you want Neon to create a relationship between them, so to kind of connect them together, or no?
I would say yes.
Okay, so I'd say, yep, would do it here. And this also might be useful for, okay, you have your event, it's free. Maybe there's people that are coming and they're not necessarily RSVPing, but you want to make sure that you're tagging them as an attendee. So you could, include them in future conversations. So you could just register them after the event if you wanted to track that as well. And then here's these event custom fields. This is what you're collecting of each attendee. So it defaults as first name, last name, email. And right now they're set as not required. And then, so kind of the final thing here is this web registration. So if I open this in a new tab, this is basically what registering for the event is going to look like. But you can configure this page exactly like we configured the donation form. Get rid of any of these fields. You can insert some pictures and kind of, make it what you want it to be. And then someone would register. They're not going to pay in this case since you have it selected as free, and then they would just show up as an attendee. Does that make some sense?
Yeah.
So going back to your event here, just kind of scrolling down, I think that's pretty much it in terms of just like an overview of how you create an event, how you manage it and collect RSVPs. Do you have any questions on the process overall, or do you kind of feel comfortable with that?
I think I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let me again look
Oh
at
wait,
our
I'm sorry.
agenda here. an Excel sheet. That way I can have the control over doing it. But, this could be helpful if you do need name badges for an event, particularly like a big gala or something like that.
Oh, okay. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Sure. Let's see. Okay. So do you want to go over, so the last two things I have on our agenda, I think we have 15 more minutes, is that right?
Yeah.
Where's my calendar? Yep, okay, yeah. So do you want to take a look at emails or the volunteer module? Do you have a preference?
I would say the email.
All right, sounds good. So we're going to go to System Settings, Home Dashboard. And okay, so I guess my other question is, do you want to look at like how you would go about sending a mass email, or do you want to look at the system emails that can go out in response to like a donation or a trigger?
I would say the mass emails first.
Okay, sure. So that's going to be under communication. Kind of the first step, the first thing that you want to do is set up an email audience. So if I go to email audience, you can do new audience. I can just label this test, and there's two different types. Standard email audience, that just gives you a little bit more flexibility. Most people use this one. So then we can go to next. And basically what you're doing here is you're adding a new search, which is going to bring up Neon's reporting component. So if I add new search, this is already defaulting a report. So if I click edit criteria, it's defaulting a report, and it's making sure that no one is marked as deceased, that no one is marked as do not contact, and that no one is opted out of email. So this is kind of what it does by default. So, if you're doing a mass email, how else might you want to segment them? Do you have something you can think of now that we could put, or we could just leave it as is?
I would say maybe if they attended an event.
Sure. So we could do event. You could do event not blank. Or if you wanted to get more specific, what else could you do? You could do what else could you do? Oh, yeah, if you wanted to have it be a specific event, you could just do equals one of the other, or you could just have it not blank, meaning they've at least attended one event. So you can just kind of play, through these fields and see if there's anything else that's relevant. I didn't really see anything that made like a ton of sense for you to want to restrict an email. But that's how you would basically just encompass all the people who have attended an event rather. So then you can load this criteria and then run the report, very similar to that reporting module. And so it's bringing up those two event attendees, and then we can save the email list. And so basically it puts them down here on the email list. But what you can also do is you can add emails here. Like say if you wanted to add yourself and like everyone else on your team, you could just add them individually here, and that's going to be, add into that email list. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically that's kind of the first step is you set up your email audience. And then when you're ready to create the actual email, you want to go to email campaigns. And then you can do build new email campaign. You can upload an email campaign. That's going to be either an HTML file or a text file. So if you just want to build one from scratch, you can just do this. And the first thing it's going to do is ask you to pick a template. So this is your default template. So you set up a template, email templates in another area, but so that's the wrapper around the email. So you pick your template here if you just wanted to pretend that it was default. So then you go to next. And this is bringing up that WYSIWYG editor. So we've seen this a couple places by now. So if you wanted to say, so you could type in your email and then you can insert any of these variable fields. So what they are in Neon, they're called tokens. So if I click this, I can type in here and say, I want to, insert first name. Click on that, and then it's basically going to put in that variable field here. And then you can just go through the process of creating the rest of the text for your email. Then you just go to next. This is showing you what the text version is going to look like. So this is if someone doesn't have HTML content enabled in their email. Go to next. And then here's where you pick, what do you want the subject of the email to be? What do you want the name of the campaign to be, which is just internal? And then finally, the sender name and the sender email. So right now it's defaulting to you. So we'll get blocked here since we don't have these populated. But basically, you just go through the process of finalizing that email campaign, and then you pick your email audience, and you can either schedule it to go out in the future, or you can send it immediately.
Okay. How does it, I know that you all integrate with MailChimp. So how would it look using an email from MailChimp?
Sure. So basically what you do is the first thing you would do is you'd go to Systems and Income Dashboard. You would first connect with MailChimp here. So you put in your API key. Then they're connected. Then you would create a list in MailChimp, which is basically creating a place for your Neon email list to go to. Then you'd go back to email audience. You'd create a new audience. There's going to be a third audience type for MailChimp. And then you're picking, who are the people that you want to send the email to. And then you'd use MailChimp to, send that email out. And all the statistics from the MailChimp emails, whether somebody clicked on it, whether they opened it, if there was a bounce back, those would directly go onto someone's account.
Okay.
Let me show you. It would be under, oh no, actually I probably took this off. MailChimp email communication history.
Okay.
So that's where you're going to see, what emails did this person get, and did they, whatever other statistics that is being collected. So that's kind of how the integration works. Basically, you send the list to MailChimp. You can use MailChimp's, thousands of templates or whatever else you might like about that. And then you just get to see, on an account who all received that email and, what they did with it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have about 10 minutes left. I do need a few minutes to show you our support center. They're kind of going to be your point of contact moving forward after today. But before we do that, I wanted to show you, just kind of like give you an overview of the email and letter settings for those system emails and letters. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So first up, you want to go to emails and letter acknowledgement defaults. So you come here and you want to think through in each of these scenarios. So there's 4 different scenarios. You want to think through what do you want Neon to do. So the first one is behavior of Neon when staff members are entering a record. So when you're like putting in accounts, do you want that person to get an acknowledgement email when their account is created? If you recall from your data entry practices, you also have the ability to override this or uncheck it automatically. But, the question is, would you want that to be defaulted or no?
So this is the system telling them that they have an account with us?
Yes, yeah. It's a little weird. We actually don't see a lot of organizations that use this. I can show you what the email looks like, but some people like to use it just as a way to send someone an email if they're trying to contact, if they have something to say, if that makes sense.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you can change the language, then that will be automatically.
Absolutely, absolutely, yep.
Okay, well for now let's say no.
Okay, sure, makes total sense to me. And then would you want someone to get an email when you're entering a donation on the back end?
Yes.
Okay. And then fundraiser donation notification, that has to do with social fundraising that you don't have as a module, so we can just go ahead and turn this off because you don't really need to worry about it. And then, so if you're registering someone for an event on the back end, do you want them to get an email?
Oh, yes.
Okay, perfect. So we'll leave that as yes. And then membership, we can ignore because you're not a membership organization. And then the last one's membership as well. And the last one has to do with our store, which you're not using. So we can select no. And then the last three sections have to do with, you see it says mail merge here. That just means that Neon can create a letter for this person. So
Okay.
I'd recommend that you come back here, take a look at these, and decide, well, do I want someone to get a letter when their account is registered? Yes or no. And then you can choose when Neon generates a letter or not.
Okay.
Is that pretty straightforward?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just go to submit to save those few changes, and then back to home dashboard. So here, the next step in the system emails and letters is to create templates. So you have email templates and then letter templates. Do you plan to send any letters through Neon, or have Neon generate letters that you would send in the mail?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have existing letterhead that you already would print on?
Yes.
Okay, so what you would do, come to system email template, go ahead and build a new template, and I can just say this for you, and you can have the template name as letterhead. And then you can say the template type is going to be print on letterhead. So get a piece of your letterhead on your desk, get out a ruler, and then you could just measure the margin. So that way you have the template saved and good to go.
Nice.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll save this for you. Let me put that in my notes to remind you to do that. So create letter template for letterhead. And then kind of very similar to emails, if I go to email template, this is the default one that Neon has. If you want to create a new one, just go to build new template, and then you're creating the header with like pictures and text and lines, and then content you probably want to be white, and then the footer if you wanted to put like your address or maybe your board members or whatnot. So this is how you would go about building an email template.
And so if we use the MailChimp, then
Yeah,
what?
then you don't have to worry about this.
Oh, okay, cool.
So the email templates are only for system emails, and if you're not using MailChimp.
Okay.
And then home dashboard. So the final and most important part of these system letters and emails is the actual version of the text. So if we go to system emails as an example, so here's just the caption that we were talking about. So if we view the settings and versions, you can just view this default one as an example. So it says, thank you for registering with us, blah, blah. For more information on us, come to our website. So if you wanted to have this be different and just kind of reach out to people, with some other messaging, you could do that as well. But since you have it turned off, then you don't really have to mess with it. Going back to system emails. So let's take a look at donation appreciation. So this is one I think you'd probably want to use. Is that correct? You think you want to send out the donation email?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Okay. So view settings and versions here. And then what you can do is you can build a new version. So this is the actual text. So as an example, we can view the one that Neon creates for you. So it's pulling, the donor's first name, it's citing their donation amount, and then it has some tokens for organization name, and then it has, your mission in here somewhere, I think. Or maybe it doesn't have the mission. Anyways, this is an example. What you can do once you're done creating this is you can test it, and I recommend doing that just so you're happy with how it pushes over. So what you can do is you can build a new version, and then you pick your template, and then this is exactly that WYSIWYG editor. So you would just kind of, just like building an email campaign, you'd search these templates for whatever you want. If you wanted to refer to someone by their first name, oops. Some other handy things you might consider using in the future, Neon has a bunch of tables for like itemized donations, for the whole year. At the end of the year, if you wanted to send out a mass email, you could do something like that.
Oh, I get it. So then it'll put together all the donations that they've given for 2015.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah, so that could be a really nice touch point at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I can exit out of there, go to cancel, and basically, so that's how you go about building a version. And then if you wanted a condition, you can have conditions for separate versions. So say if you wanted an email condition to be, you know what, if somebody gives to a campaign that is equal to corporate grants, you know, maybe I want them to get a very different version of, you know, a donation appreciation email. So you could select this condition, you know, save whatever it is, and then once you have this saved, then you can pick the version. You can create a different version and have it associated with that condition. Does that make a little bit of sense about how you would kind of restrict those?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a guide on this and then a video that goes over it more specifically. You know, if you go into more detail, just takes a little bit of thinking through, and
Yeah.
basically, you know, the emails in general. Like, you're going to spend a little bit of time creating the text for the versions, but once you have them created, then it's going to help to take that administrative work off of your plate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so I am in my other window. I want to set you up in our support center and show you what that looks like. While I'm doing that, are there any other questions you have for me?
No, not at this time.
Okay, sure. Okay, so I am setting you up in our support center. Is there another person that you would want me to set up as well who has a support center account?
Someone else who I would want to have a support center account?
Yeah, is there anyone else on your staff?
Yeah, I would say probably Angela Herlock,
Okay.
my executive director. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect. So I will create an account for her as well. So give me one moment. All right, almost done here. And Andrea, your last name's Porter, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So I just sent you, so you'll get an automatic email letting you know that you have an account in our support center. So let me show you what this looks like here and make sure, see if you have any questions. So this is our support center. Right now I'm logged in on your behalf. So this is exactly what it's going to look like. If you ever have a question, you can search it here. Like say you were looking for something about emails. You can type that into the search box. And then on the left, it's going to pull up our guides. So that's underneath knowledge base. So you could do, you know, system emails, what we were just talking about. Click on this, you can kind of scroll through, and it's going to kind of define what a system email is, give you some screenshots and kind of some instructions about how you would go about setting things up in Neon.
Okay.
And then if you ever have a problem or you need to submit a request, you can go to submit a request here, put in a subject. This box says describe the incident in as much detail as possible. You know, you're absolutely welcome to, you know, ask any general questions or if there's something that you don't understand. And you can also add an attachment if you have a screenshot that's relevant. You could do that here. Submit a ticket and you'll get responses back via email. And once you're done, once the ticket's been closed, they'll ask you to rate your service, you know, and I think they have like a 95% rating now, but you know, they definitely try and get back to you, you know, very quickly. They're here from coast to coast 9 to 5, but you're local, so they'll be available, you know, when you're in your business hours. And then if I go back to the main screen here, if you are interested in any training videos, if I click this middle box here, these are recorded. So you can just click any of these and watch them. One thing I like to point out, so if you're interested in watching the fundraising video and you don't necessarily have 40 minutes, each one of these bullet points is a PowerPoint slide. So if you wanted to look at, solicitors, you could just look for this PowerPoint slide as you scroll through the YouTube video.
Okay.
And then finally, going back to the home page, you can go to, the live webinars. If you're interested in attending any of these live webinars, you can attend those and ask questions and sign up for them. They're free and unlimited, so you or anyone else from your staff can attend those. And that's pretty much it. Do you have any other questions? Do you feel kind of comfortable understanding the resources moving forward?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right. Well, what I will do is I will send you a follow-up email with the link to the recording for this training, and I'll send you some guides and some kind of to-do list things for you. If you have any questions about anything we went over, feel free to send me an email. Otherwise, your support team is going to be the best place to kind of for quick questions or any problems you might have moving forward.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, well, thank you for your time, Andrea. It's been a pleasure working with you. I wish you all the luck in Neon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.